rare and balanced view on politics in today's world. Based on facts, born of rationality, common sense, and logic, providing context on today's events. This is American Perspective with Rick Thomas.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to American Perspective. I am your host, Rick. So, I am going to let you know just up front that if the sound sounds a little different, well, it's because I actually changed my audio cards, and so there's still some tweaks and things that need to be done, but I moved some of that stuff around last night after the show. And so if things sound a little bit different, that would be why. And of course, if it sounds horrible or, bad in any other way, then, obviously let me know. But other than that, I think everything is going to be cool. I've got a couple, just one more set of parts that are on their way in order to make things really completely clear on my end, at least. Yeah. Anyway, so Buddy's like, okay, audio's okay. Well, good. I'm glad the audio's okay. All right. Got a lot to get to. But I know that when I signed for, when I was signing for like my house and signing the paperwork to go into the service, my hand got cramped. And so I'm kind of wondering, because Trump's been signing a lot of stuff here recently, I'm wondering if Trump's hand is getting cramped. We'll have to see. But anyway, I'll show you a lot of the things that he's been signing coming up. And we have a new entry for a question of the week, or I should say a new entry from a longtime Whiskey Warrior P1, but this is the first time that I've had an international question come in. So we'll get to that later on in the program. Let's go ahead and get things kicked off. Tonight is Buddy Weiser is on tap for tonight's Pledge of Allegiance. So if you are of mind, please stand, remove your hat, if you're wearing one like me, and place your hand over your heart and join in with the venerable Buddy Weiser and the Pledge of Allegiance.
I hereby pledge my allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which she stands, one nation under one God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all her citizens. So help me God.
All right. And of course, I thank Buddy for sending in that wonderful rendition of the Pledge of Allegiance. If you would like to hear your rendition of the pledge played here on the program, all you need to do is record yourself performing the pledge, reciting the pledge in your style. And once you do that, take that audio file, video file, whatever kind of file, and attach it to an email address. Send that email off to fans, F-A-N-S, at americanperspective.online. That's fans, F-A-N-S, at americanperspective.online. And I will get you into the rotation as quickly as possible. Tonight, I am drinking out of the Woodford Reserve. I don't have very much left. Don't have very much left, but it's here. It is here. And so, there we go. That is what is in this fabulous, wonderful, fantastic part of a gift that was sent to me. This is just one part of a two-part gift that was sent off to me. Here it is. Dun, 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 dun. The American Perspective whiskey glass. Dun, 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 dun. There it is. Yay. All right. And of course, I've got the stones in the bottom. So there we go. And yes, it does take stones to drink whiskey, but that glass is sitting on the shelf for tonight. Tonight is the American Perspective one. Fantastic gift by my wonderful Whiskey Warrior P1s. In fact, I need to get with whoever did this. See if maybe I can find a way to add this to the store in some way, shape, or form. Anyway, well, we can take that offline. All right. So there we go. Whew. That's some good stuff. All right, tonight's headline sponsor is the Institute on the Constitution. The Institute on the Constitution was established in 2004 as a 501c3 nonprofit with one singular mission, and that is to restore the constitutional republic through grassroots education. All courses and materials are developed using primary source documents and taught from the American view of law and government as defined in the Declaration of Independence in the following 3 key points. Whoops, wrong hand. 3 key points. 1, there is a God. 2, our rights come from him. And 3, the purpose of civil government is to secure and protect our God-given rights. The IOTC offers the opportunity to educate yourself on our most precious founding document, the Constitution of the United States. They also provide tools to educate your community and get involved with local government. Start by taking their free U.S. Constitution course and go from there. Use my affiliate link, iotc.americanperspective.online, to sign up. And while you are there, take a moment to look through their other course material and information. My affiliate link, once again, is iotc.americanperspective.online to get great content, to learn about our historical founding, and support the show in the process. That's iotc.americanperspective.online. Or if you just want to purchase this, I got to get it in the correct hand, this fabulous Saddleback leather-bound U.S. Constitution to support the show, go to constitution.americanperspective.online. Go and check this out. It's got 1/8 of an inch of Saddleback leather wrapped around pages that are water and tear resistant. Not to mention the fact there's no cheap glue here, folks. They stitched the binding all the way through the pages and the leather. It's got a 100-year warranty against material and manufacturing defects, such that if you have a problem, you send it back to the manufacturer and they will either fix it or replace it for free. My Whiskey Warrior P1s over on the Rumble channel keep talking about how it has rounded corners to keep from poking you in the butt or elsewhere, wherever you put it in your pocket. It's buddy tested, buddy approved, Billy tasted, Billy approved, and my youngest Whiskey Warrior has confirmed that the contents contained within can help you study for your civics badge in Scouts. You can also use it to study for your civics exam, if you have one. Go to constitution.americanperspective.online and get yours today. Don't forget to go and also check out the rest of the Institute on the Constitution, as we were talking about last show, about the constitutional sheriff. They've got a book there written by Robert Mack about the constitutional sheriff and what the sheriff actually can and cannot do. More can than can't. Anyway, go and check out the rest of their offerings today, and I thank them for allowing me to be an affiliate. All right. So President Trump has officially averted the shutdown. That's number one. Yeah, he signed the continuing resolution. So we're official now. I mean, just because Congress passed it, it doesn't actually become law until the president signs it. So the president has signed it. It's now done and over with. And the Democrats can just sit there and whine, moan, and cry over the whole thing. Well, at least the Democrats that seem to think that they need to fight against it. All right, let's do tonight's I forgot to do this. The segment, first segment, of course, is on this day in American history. All right. And of course, for on this day in American history, we read from the American Patriots Almanac, written by William J. Bennett and John T. Cribb. It is chock full with all kinds of factoids and information that carries you through the entire year. Tonight, we have, under March 15th, we have, the American Legion. So let's hear about this. Shortly after World War I ended, 20 officers of the American Expeditionary Forces met in Paris with orders to confer on how the Army could improve troop morale. One of the officers, Lieutenant Colonel Theodore Roosevelt Jr., son of President Theodore Roosevelt, suggested an idea that had already crossed many of the men's minds: an organization in which veterans could stay in touch, help each other, and work together after the fighting was over. Uh-oh. Audio just went south. That's not good. Let's see what happened here. Yeah. Audio. Let's try that. How about that one? Is that better? How about that? Is that better? I just switched it to a different setup. Is that better? Okay, that one's better. Wonder what happened. The other one. Okay. Well, that's kind of odd. That's yeah, that's bad. All right. Well, I'll have to look at that. All right, let's go back to this. Now, where was I? Oh yes. So, Lieutenant Colonel Theodore Roosevelt Jr., son of President Theodore Roosevelt, suggested an idea that had already crossed many of the men's minds: an organization in which veterans could stay in touch, help each other, and work together after the fighting was over. The officers wasted no time putting the idea into action. On March 15th, 1919, about 1,000 U.S. soldiers gathered in Paris for the very first meeting of the American Legion. Today, the Legion is the nation's largest veterans organization, with about 2.6 million members. Men and women may join if they have served honorably in the United States Armed Forces during times of hostilities, such as World War II, the Korean War, Vietnam War, Persian Gulf War, and Iraq War. The Legion's purpose is partly to help veterans continue friendships formed during military service. It also gives members a way to keep serving their country. The American Legion has built parks and playgrounds, donated equipment to hospitals and fire halls, sponsored Boy Scout troops and youth baseball leagues, promoted the study of the Constitution in schools, and much more. For God and country is the American Legion motto. The organization has 14,000 posts worldwide. There's probably one near you, and your community is almost certainly a better place for it. And that is tonight's On This Day in American History. And by the way, my Legion post, I used to be a member. I'm not a member anymore, but my Legion post is just two driveways right next to it. They repainted the Legion. They turned it red, white, and blue. And at first it was kind of like shocking in comparison to like all of the green and everything else that was around. But anyway, I digress with all of that. All right. Okay, so we have, oh, wait. I hate this thing. I really hate this thing. For some reason, the camera caught, and anyway, there we go. All right. I wish there was a way to turn that part off. Anyway, so Biden, yeah, the camera was a little off. You're right, Nana. It was. It went and moved on me. Anyway, all right. So, Trump has started to sign more revocations of Biden era actions. This is the second round of rollbacks that he is doing. And the president, on his first day of office, rescinded nearly 80 executive orders and memoranda issued by President Joe Biden. This time around, he's revoked 19 executive orders and actions issued by his predecessor. The White House on Friday released a list of Biden-era actions that Trump rolled back. He says, he says, I have determined that the following additional whatever they are, anyway, are necessary to advance the policy of the United States to restore common sense to the federal government and unleash the potential of American citizens, the order stated. The president, on his first day of office, rescinded nearly 80 executive orders and memoranda issued by former President Joe Biden. Trump's latest action reversed Biden's 2021 executive order that raised the minimum wage for federal contractors to $15 an hour. According to Biden, the order promoted efficiency in the federal government. By contrast, Trump has worked to pare down the federal workforce as part of his efforts to cut government waste. Trump established the Department of Government Efficiency, a special commission, blah, 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 vowing to cut millions of dollars from the federal government. Trump's also eliminated Biden's use of the Defense Production Act, which he said the former president invoked to push his energy transition agenda, including the addition of mandates for electric heat pumps and solar panels. In June of 2002, Biden invoked that act to boost supplies to U.S. solar manufacturers and declare a 2-year tariff exemption on solar panels from Southeast Asia as part of his climate agenda. Trump also repealed Biden's 2024 executive order aimed at improving labor standards. The Good Jobs executive order promoted, quote, strong labor standards such as family-sustaining wages, workplace safety, and free and fair opportunity to join a union, according to the Biden White House. The White House said Biden's actions forced radical labor policies and apprenticeship mandates onto American businesses and government agencies. He also removed Biden's directive to prioritize union-driven policies that imposed unnecessary regulations on industries. The White House also revoked Biden's executive order that funneled federal resources into radical biotech and biomanufacturing initiatives under the guise of environmental policies. Yeah. So he's been... In September, Biden signed that order to invest more government funds into the biotechnology industry. Biden launched the National Biotechnology and Biomanufacturing Initiative with the intent to strengthen supply chains, improve health outcomes, and reduce carbon emissions, according to the prior White House. Okay. Again, just keep in mind, all of this stuff doesn't fall within Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution. I know I keep harping on that, but believe me, this is the biggest the best thing that could be done would be to just apply the 10th Amendment to everything that is there. Apply the 10th Amendment. Anyway. All right. Well, there's plenty of other stuff, too. Additionally, the president terminated Biden's proclamations that established a new national monuments across nearly 1 million acres of land. Trump said the vast amount of land is being locked up as opposed to being utilized for economic development and energy production. White House also said Trump is fulfilling a campaign pledge to reverse the disastrous policies of the Biden administration and put America back on the path to prosperity, security, and strength. In just 2 months, Trump has rescinded more executive actions than the total number of executive orders that President Biden signed in his entire first year, according to a White House statement posted on the social media platform X. Within hours of being sworn in for his second term, Trump directed his staff to compile lists of additional executive actions, proclamations, and memorandum to issue issued by the prior administration that should be rescinded. So, yep, sign that, got it out of the way. But that doesn't end the signing. He also signed an order to dismantle 8 federal agencies, including the Voice of America parent entity. The Voice of America nominee, Carrie Lake, told staff on Saturday to check their emails immediately. So he signed an executive order late on Friday that seeks to dismantle 8 federal agencies. The president's March 14th order directs these agencies to shut down all non-legally required functions, cut staff, and reduce statutory roles to the bare minimum required by law. He has given agency heads 7 days to report compliance to the Office of Management and Budget or justify the continued existence of whichever functions still remain. The White House fact sheet notes that cuts are to enhance accountability, reduce waste, and promote innovation. It further notes that cutting the 8 agencies will streamline government priorities, save taxpayer dollars, and drain the swamp. Here's the 7 that are slated for elimination. The Federal Mediation and Conciliation Service. What? The United States Agency for Global Media, that's the VOA head agency. Woodrow Wilson International Center for Scholars. Yeah, Woodrow Wilson was kind of a socialist, so it's needs to go. Anyway, the Institute of Museum and Library Services. United States Interagency Council on Homelessness. Community Development Financial Institutions Fund, and the Minority Business Development Agency. You know what's common across all of those? I don't think any of those show up in Article 1, Section 8 as a responsibility of the federal government either. Okay, I don't think those are constitutional, so then that's good. The White House fact sheet also identifies the 8th entity to be wound down, which is the Arctic Research Commission. Wow. Just to think how many you want to talk about overbloat in our government? This is a perfect example of what the overbloat looks like right here. I mean, how many freaking agencies do we need? How many things do we need when they just don't seem to get it? People, they're not responsibilities of the federal government. You want those things? Fine. If you really want the federal government to do that stuff, it's really pretty easy. All you need to do is take a page out of the Constitution called Article 5. and create it. And then have Congress approve it, and then have the states, 3/4 of them, agree with you. Not that difficult. Well, it's a high bar to reach. I'll just be honest. But you're sitting here and you're wondering why we're $36 trillion in debt. I mean, let's just be completely honest. All of this stuff, and I'll bet that most of those agencies, the vast majority of them realistically, probably handed out a bunch of grants and loans and things of that nature. Okay? Yeah. Anyway. So, just to kind of finish this out, the United States Agency for Global Media runs Voice of America and Radio Free Asia. And both of those have been in Trump's crosshairs since his first term, with an annual budget of around $900 million that operates networks broadcasting in more than 60 languages and across 100 countries. The USAGM has been the target of criticism from Trump allies who argue it operates with a liberal bias. Yeah, you think? Anyway, Trump nominated Brent Bozell, who is a conservative media watchdog, to lead the USAGM, though his Senate confirmation is still pending. Carrie Lake has been tagged to steer VOA. Lake said in a speech at the Conservative Political Action Conference that she understands why there are calls to dismantle VOA, but that she believes that it can actually be improved. She was sworn in as a senior advisor for USAGM on March 3rd as she awaits further action on her VOA nomination. In a post on social media on Saturday, Lake said that Trump's latest executive order affects VOA operations and added that staff should check their emails immediately. Already, multiple VOA staff have received emails placing them on administrative leave with full pay and benefits until otherwise notified. It was not immediately clear how many of these people have been affected. So there you go. More? Do we have more? I don't know. Maybe. There is one more, honestly. According to Town Hall, we may have a new Trump travel ban coming. Wait, what? A new Trump travel ban? Oh, say it isn't so. Yeah, right here. Here it is. He's reportedly drafting a new travel ban, which will likely trigger the liberal media. It's a much broader order as opposed to his initial one that was dealing with immigration. And that one listed several predominantly Muslim nations. And the press, of course, erroneously framed this particular order as a Muslim ban. It wasn't. Indonesia, which is the world's most populous Muslim nation, was not on the list. It was not even Trump's list. This was Obama's list, according to this. The new one Trump is cooking up has 43 nations on it, according to the New York Times. Yeah. There's a lot of African nations. Here's some the U.S. Homeland Security News X account has a graphic here, and you can see places like Afghanistan, Cuba, Iran, Libya, North Korea, Somalia, Sudan, Syria, Venezuela, and Yemen are all on the travel ban list. Then they have a list of visas being sharply restricted. Places like Belarus, Laos, Myanmar, Pakistan, Russia, Sierra Leone, South Sudan, and Turkmenistan. Those are ones that are restricted, severely restricted. And then yellow has, 60 days to address concerns. There's Antigua and Barbados, Cambodia, Cameroon, Cape Verde, Chad, Republic of Congo. Let's see, who else? Equatorial Guinea, Liberia, bunch of, and several others that are on that list. So, yeah, there you go. In a quote from the New York Times, it says, the Trump administration is considering targeting the citizens of as many as 43 countries as a part of a new ban to travel or on travel to the United States that would be broader than the restrictions imposed during President Trump's first term, according to officials familiar with the matter. The draft list of recommendations developed by diplomatic and security officials suggests a red list of 11 countries whose citizens would flatly be barred from entering the United States. And then the officials who spoke on the condition of anonymity to discuss the sensitive internal deliberations cautioned that the list had not been developed by the State Department had been developed by the State Department several weeks ago, and that the changes were likely by the time it reached the White House. So there you go. More. Tired of winning yet? Tired of all the changes yet? Okay, well, here's the thing. Donald Trump actually physically signed these things. He didn't use the auto pen. Nope. Did not use the auto pen. Unlike Biden. However, you remember I told you about the lawsuit that is being filed about the auto pen? Well, here in the New York Post, Biden sources. Excuse me. Ooh, let me take a drink. Biden sources suspect a key aide might have abused the auto pen. Wait, what? Biden sources suspect a key aide may have abused the auto pen? Say it isn't so. Oh my gosh. Well, anyway, Trump has put in far more restrictive signing rules, and they were revealed by this. So now we're hearing that a key aide to former President Joe Biden may have exceeded their authority by liberally using an auto pen to sign official documents, according to two former White House sources, as President Trump's aides set up, quote, far more restrictive rules regarding the use of the mechanical device. A document obtained by the Post outlines the narrow set of circumstances in which Trump's signature can be affixed to documents following controversy this week kicked off by the Heritage Foundation analysis of Biden's signatures on various records, including the last-minute pardons, which, So a small group of officials under both Biden and Trump have been delegated the power to get documents signed robotically, but 82-year-old Biden's perceived cognitive decline has sparked debate about whether some aides may have assumed his wishes in his final stretch as commander-in-chief. That's a damn good question, Coco D. Insert name here. She asks, did Hunter autopen his own pardon? We know that Hunter Biden took over the White House toward the end. We know he was there in cabinet meetings and things like that. That is a damn good question. I'm surprised I didn't even think of that, but I have the smartest audience in radio in all of podcasting land for sure. So that just makes sense that somebody beat me to the punch. Anyway, one Biden White House source told the Post that they suspect a key aide to the then president may have made unilateral determinations on what to auto-sign. Now, the Post is not publishing that staffer's name due to the lack of any concrete evidence and refutations by other colleagues. So, in other words, there's other people who, talk about stuff. Anyway, the Biden aide who did not respond to requests for comments would frequently make mention of what the boss wanted, the source said. But compatriots would have no idea if it was true because the internal culture was, of course, do not ask questions. I mean, God forbid you ask questions about whether or not your boss is sentient or not. Anyway. So apparently the staffer, or somebody who was the source, this is the source. The source said, "I feared no one as much as I feared that staffer. To me, the staffer basically was the president," the person said. "No one ever questioned the staffer. Period." Yeah. Huh. And here we go. Coco D insert name here once again. Asks the question, are there cameras in these rooms? There probably are, but chances are it's going to go the way of like the things, say the cocaine bag. It's going to just disappear. So yeah. Anyway. The source also continued and said everyone was suspicious of this individual exceeding their authority when claiming to speak for the president, but no one would actually say it. They said, "I think the aide was using the auto pen as a standard and past protocol. There is no clarity on who actually approved what, POTUS or the aide." This, wow, this actually kind of throws a big, another thing that, that we may never know in the Biden White House. I mean, seriously. Wow. Okay. This is something that definitely needs to be investigated. I'm actually just flabbergasted just sitting here talking about it. Oh my gosh. So, several other former staffers include those who have in the past offered unvarnished assessments of what they view as the shortcomings of the ex-president and his core staff, described the allegation as absurd, and said they never saw the person abuse their authority. Really? Well, one of the skeptics noted that Biden frequently would demand to see the most mundane statements put out by the press office during their tenure early in his term of office, with another calling the entire storyline BS and adding that it was embarrassing for Trump and his allies to be making it an issue. Attorney Mike Davis, a prominent outside advisor to Trump and his team, told the Post that the particular circumstances of auto pen use matter, noting that it's common practice in Washington for politicians to delegate auto signatures to their aides. If they're carrying out the president's will, it doesn't seem like an issue. If they're not carrying out the president's will, it's a huge issue. It's criminal, Davis said, listing forgery, obstruction of justice, and fraud as potential charges. He continued and said, if the authorized auto pen operator is using the auto pen on a particular document against the president's will, it's clearly not valid. Okay, so let's be honest here. The president, well, the former president, Biden, was questioned by the Speaker, or now Speaker of the House. He may not have been Speaker. I mean, I think he was, about a executive order that Biden reportedly signed, and having signed it, that executive order had essentially blocked the sale of liquefied natural gas from Mike Johnson's home state of Louisiana. Now, his state has a dependency on those exports. And Mike Johnson revealed in an interview that he literally asked President Biden, "You signed this order. Why did you sign this order? Why did you put this order out?" And Biden said, I didn't do that. So, folks, we got a lot of questions as to what happened in the Biden White House. I mean, there are just so many questions. Now, if this is even remotely possible that a staffer wielded the auto pen more often than what Biden had actually asked for, that could become a bit of a problem. And it could become a legal issue, potentially. I mean, seriously. Well, in order to avoid all of this stuff, okay, and questions about it, Trump and his secretary in particular, it was an internal memo drafted last Thursday by Trump's staff secretary, William Scharf, who for the past 2 months has publicly described and presented documents to Trump for his signature in the Oval Office. He lays out the restricted current use of the auto pen. We have gone significantly further than the need for express approval, both in this administration and in the first Trump administration, Scharf wrote. Our practice around auto pen usage is far more restrictive than most previous administrations. We do not use the auto pen for documents that exercise the powers of the presidency. So, for example, we do not use the auto pen for executive orders, presidential memoranda, decision memoranda, nominations, appointment orders or commissions, or bills to be signed, he wrote. We do not use the auto pen even for more routine purposes, such as the invitation of foreign leaders to the White House. The president personally signs all of these in the presence of witnesses. We will occasionally use the auto pen when a single document requires multiple presidential signatures, or when multiple copies of a single document require signing, but only after the president has personally signed off and only at his direction. Could you imagine if a memorandum had surfaced that this was Biden's instructions for the use of the auto pen? Yeah, I doubt there's that instruction there. So anyway, yeah, there you go. So I guess the memo is also dated January 28th and was reviewed by the Post. It grants Scharf and the White House Chief of Staff, Susie Wiles, the authority to use the auto pen for all matters. Scharf's deputy and the president's executive clerk are allowed to make the call at Scharf's direction. So, yeah, there you go. Now, don't get me wrong, auto pens have been used by many presidents since Lyndon Johnson back in the 1960s. Most notably for letters to children and similar trivial matters, but the use has expanded over the years, with President Barack Obama in 2013 using an auto pen to sign a major spending bill. We talked about that not too long ago. Both Biden and Trump aides have jumped on a plane to hand deliver significant legislation for the president's signature. Scharf wrote, under our administration, the auto pen is housed in the Office of Presidential Records. It's housed there because the OPR is not a production office, meaning that they do not independently produce documents. that ensures that a single office cannot both create a document and have it signed. This is a crucial control mechanism that ensures that the president's signature and the authority that flows from it is protected. Scharf also added, I view it as my weightiest responsibility as the president's staff secretary to ensure that documents issuing from this White House or under the president's signature reflect the actual expressed will of the president, and that he has the opportunity to personally review the finalized copy of every such document when it is presented for his signature. So, there you go. Now, I know that Ronald Reagan used the auto pen. The reason why I know that is because I got a form letter from Ronald Reagan when I was in elementary school after after my entire class sent him a bunch of our own handwritten letters. But even then, Ronald Reagan was also known for writing his own letters back. He didn't do all of them, but he did several of them. Unfortunately, mine was not one of them. That would have been really cool. I really would have had a fantastic, and I know it was the auto pen that signed it because, I mean, let's face it, it had the look of it. Anyway. Well, one more drink. So, in international news, Just the News is reporting that a top ISIS leader was just killed in a joint U.S.-Iraqi operation. The Trump administration and the Iraqi government scored a major win in the war on terror, conducting a joint operation that killed the leader of the Islamic State in Iraq and Syria. Iraqi Prime Minister Mohammed Shia al-Sudani announced late Friday that Abdullah Maki Mosleh al-Rifai, or Abu Kidja, I don't even know. Anyway, was killed in the joint operation. President Trump hailed the operation last night in a social media post. Of course, that's on Truth Social. Gotta, make it right. So anyway, Trump wrote, today, the fugitive leader of ISIS in Iraq was killed. He was relentlessly hunted down by our intrepid warfighters. His miserable life was terminated, along with another member of ISIS, in coordination with the Iraqi government and the Kurdish regional government. Peace through strength. So there you go. Trump is already making the world a safer place by picking up where he left off, which is going after all of these ISIS leaders, something that, of course, the previous administration had no balls to do. Well, he continues that stance, peace through strength, by ordering a powerful attack on Iranian-backed Houthi rebels in Yemen. This, according to the New York Post. President Trump unleashed, quote, hell on Iranian-backed Houthis on Saturday, striking dozens of targets in Yemen in response to the terror group's attacks on the Red Sea shipping. Trump wrote in a Truth Social post, today I have ordered the United States military to launch decisive and powerful military action against the Houthi terrorists in Yemen. They have waged an unrelenting campaign of piracy, violence, and terrorism against American and other ships, aircraft, and drones, he continued. Trump sent a direct message to the group in his post. Your attacks must stop, starting today. If they don't, hell will rain down upon you like nothing you have ever seen before. The U.S. will use overwhelming lethal force to achieve its objective, Trump added. Iran's support for its proxy must end immediately, Trump warned, cautioning the country not to threaten the U.S. or international shipping lanes. He said, quote, "If you do, beware, because America will hold you fully accountable and we won't be nice about it." At least 9 people were killed and another 9 were injured during the initial strikes, the Houthi-run health ministry claimed. Strikes were carried out by the USS Harry S. Truman Carrier Strike Group, 3 Navy destroyers, and 1 cruiser at targets in Sana'a, Yemen's capital city, according to the reports. U.S. Central Command posted videos to X of a series of fighter jets taking off from an aircraft carrier as it announced the strikes. Radars, air defenses, and missile and drone systems that the Houthis had been using to disrupt shipping lanes in the Red Sea were among the targets, according to the New York Times. Well, this is what a real commander-in-chief comes from. This is what a real commander-in-chief does to protect America's interests, not only here, but also abroad. This is what a real commander-in-chief can achieve when they've got the balls to carry out what is right and proper. This, folks, is a huge differential between what we used to have in Biden and Obama before him and what we have in President Trump. This is exactly what a president, a commander-in-chief of the greatest fighting force the world has ever seen, does. He doesn't use it in a way that is dictatorial. He doesn't use it in a way that is oppressive. He uses it defensively. In an offensive manner, offense not as in offense, but as in offense, like attacking manner, but he does it with restraint and understanding the impacts of what he is looking for. But folks, I'm just telling you, the sheriff, there's a new sheriff in town, and he ain't going to take no crap from any of you people. Okay? He ain't going to take any crap. He reminds me a little bit, as far as this particular peace through strength element, from Ronald Reagan. Now, you don't recall, because many of you may not have been born then, but Ronald Reagan had a dust up with this guy known as Muammar Gaddafi in Libya. And Muammar Gaddafi sat there and was like, yeah, I'm going to make all kinds of words and overtures and all kinds of other things. I'm going to, talk so bad about America. And all of a sudden, Ronnie Ray Gun went and destroyed 3 of Saddam's 4 palace houses, or not Saddam, Gaddafi's 4 palace houses, and said, basically, yeah, you need to just shut up. Because we knew you weren't home. We knew where you were. Yeah, that's how you handle these little pissant countries that want to sit here and talk all kinds of a good game about stuff. That's what you do when you're an actual president of the United States. That's what you do when you have the biggest and best equipped military fighting force behind you. And it's going to get even better because we have people like Secretary of Defense who's going to make it better. It's going to make it lethal. It's going to make it strong again. That's why recruitment has been up since Donald Trump has taken office in all branches. Yep. Well, the other thing that's going to happen under a president who knows what the hell he's doing is that things like frivolous lawsuits are going to be dropping, lawsuits that were initiated by the previous administration. So here in the Epic Times, Justice Department drops lawsuits against Oklahoma and Iowa immigration laws. So the courts originally had blocked the laws, finding that they violate the Constitution by creating state immigration enforcement systems. The Justice Department on March 14th dropped these Biden-era lawsuits, challenging state laws in Oklahoma and Iowa that empowered these states to detain and apply consequences to illegal immigrants. Despite the federal government's new actions, the Oklahoma and Iowa laws still remain blocked by the federal courts for the moment. The U.S. Department of Justice filed a voluntary notice of dismissal with the federal court in Oklahoma and a voluntary notice of dismissal with the federal district court in Iowa. The Biden administration had sued to block the two state laws, arguing that they violated the U.S. Constitution by creating state-based immigration systems that clash with the federal system. Well, he didn't freaking uphold the federal system anyway, so I don't know where he got the idea that the states couldn't do this. Anyway, President Trump, of course, ran on the platform last year that promised enhanced immigration law enforcement efforts, and has issued a series of executive orders dealing with immigration policy since returning to the White House. The Oklahoma law, which is HB 4156, allows state law enforcement officials to detain and incarcerate illegal aliens found to be physically present in the state. Why not? I mean, why not? They would detain them and then hand them over to the federal government for deportation. Why not? Anyway, the law also requires that those convicted under the statute leave Oklahoma within 72 hours. Okay? Countless individuals from across the globe, including thousands of Chinese nationals as well as people affiliated with terror organizations, have illegally crossed into the U.S. or illegally crossed the U.S.-Mexico border. Oklahomans are concerned by who could be lying in wait for an opportunity to bring harm to our country. That was Oklahoma Governor Kevin Stitt's statement on April 30th when he signed the measure into law, April 30th of 2024. So, Oklahoma Attorney General GETTR Drummond welcomed the dismissal of the federal lawsuit. Let's see. Yeah, so there you go. The Iowa statute, known as SF 2340, was signed into law by Iowa Governor Kim Reynolds on April 10th of 2024. The law made it an offense for an alien to enter or attempt to enter the state. Okay. To attempt to enter the state, if the person has been denied admission to or has been excluded, deported, or removed from the United States. The statute also allowed state judges to order those convicted to be returned to their country of origin. Reynolds said when she was signing the bill that the Biden administration has failed to enforce our nation's immigration laws, putting the protection and safety of Iowans at risk. Yep. So, yeah, I don't know why. I mean, that was just, I mean, again, common sense has come back to this country. It really has. If the federal government wasn't going to enforce immigration law, like it wasn't at the time, there is no reason why the states couldn't have picked up the ball because the federal government wasn't doing its damn job. That's part of what federalism is all about. Now, keep in mind, the federal government is supposed to take care of certain things. And, the 10th Amendment basically says that anything that's in the Constitution that is not specifically denied, or that is specifically denied to the states, those are two conditions, that they belong to the federal government. But anything else that isn't goes directly to the states. Now, the problem here is, of course, immigration, constitutionally speaking, is 100% within the realm of the federal government. Constitutionally speaking, because that's part of Article 1, Section 8. But when the Constitution is not being upheld by the federal government, is not, and laws are not being enforced by the federal government, the only people that are left to pick up the ball and pick up the slack are the states. The states. And that's what Oklahoma and Iowa did here. Now, we're going to have to see whether or not the laws, even though the Department of Justice has dropped the cases, whether or not the blocks from these federal district judges are going to be removed now that the government has said, yeah, we're not moving forward with this case. We're going to have to see. So, yeah. Anyway, so we're going to take a step back into the history. You recall under the first Trump presidency, meaning the first Trump getting into office, the first time Trump and his team attempted to get into office, there was this thing that was done illegally, by the way, by the FBI. The FBI started spying on the Trump organization under a false pretense that was pushed through the FISA courts in order to obtain wiretaps on the incoming president's team. Well, Senator Grassley and Senate Permanent Subcommittee on Investigations Chairman Ron Johnson released some information that, this is amazing, that the FBI actually did obtain the cell phones of Donald Trump and back then Vice President-elect Mike Pence. Senate Judiciary Chairman Chuck Grassley, this is, by the way, in Just the News, on Friday sent a letter to Attorney General Pam Bondi and FBI Director Kash Patel. Doesn't that just sound wonderful? FBI Director Kash Patel and Attorney General Pam Bondi. Considering the fact that we've had, the Agino, Attorney General in name only, and, and the Christopher Wray, FBI Director, both of them just horrible individuals in those offices. But anyway, I digress. He sent a letter, Chuck Grassley sent a letter revealing that the Bureau allegedly obtained the cell phones of President Donald Trump and former Vice President Mike Pence. The revelation was unveiled in legally protected whistleblower disclosures from Grassley and from the Senate Permanent Subcommittee on Investigations Chairman Ron Johnson, and that this was part of the FBI's, quote, Arctic Fox investigation. Both chairmen wrote to Bondi and Patel and said, "Sunshine is the best disinfectant. The American people deserve to know the complete extent of the corruption within the DOJ and the FBI that led to the investigation of Donald Trump. We are making this information public for purposes of public accountability and to provide specific examples of past behavior at your institutions that must not be repeated, they continued. Quite simply, the public has a right to know what happened in Arctic frost, and based on what we've exposed to date, the American public deserves better from its law enforcement agencies. The new information is important because Operation Arctic Frost formed the basis of former special counsel Jack Smith's fake electors case. Here we go. Again, the more we dig, the more we find out. The more we find out, the more disgusting this actually is when you're looking at the American people and trying to tell them that they need to be basically subservient to the DOJ and the FBI, and that the FBI and the DOJ are doing the work that they should be, and so on and so forth. And then we just have to trust them without any sort of oversight or questioning of their intents and motives. Yeah. So the senators revealed that the Bureau, the FBI, began its process of acquiring the pair's government phones in April of 2022. The phones were in the possession of the Biden White House. The FBI officially obtained them that May. The Bureau also interviewed key members of the first Trump administration, including his deputy White House counsel. Senators added that in just 4 days, in June of 2022, the Bureau spent approximately $16,000 in taxpayer-funded travel to conduct more than 40 interviews, serve subpoenas, and execute several cellular device search warrants. Yeah. So, yeah. And by the way, there's an editor's note here that basically said that an earlier version of this story incorrectly reported that the FBI had listened into calls between President Trump and VP Pence. That actually didn't happen. So, the story, the part where began the process of acquiring the pair's government phones in April of 2022, is what was updated for that. People. I'm just going to tell you the things that we need to know, but have not yet learned about this past administration is just, it's abhorrent. It's absolutely abhorrent in terms of what's out there. All right. Really quick, just because it happens to be on my mind, we have some more information, a little bit more of information that has been added to tgrn.net. So TGRN, True Grit Roots Network, is what that stands for. Our home on the web is tgrn.net. TGRN is a digital radio station, and we have currently our channel, which is Blues Rock. It's Walter Trout Blues Rock Radio, that is playing right now, but soon, very soon, April 7th, we will be launching the additional channel of Dallas Moore's Outlaw Radio. The TGRN website has now been updated with some information on Dallas Moore Outlaw Radio. You're going to have to go to tgrn.net. That's tgrn.net. And take a look under DMO Radio. It's up there in the major, in the menu at the top of the screen. And you can go and check out DMO Radio to start to see some of the changes that are coming under Dallas Moore's Outlaw Radio. You can also read the press release that was released on March 11th announcing all of this. right there on the front page at tgrn.net. Once things start going, once we get the app in place and things like and those kinds of things, you can head on over to tgrn.net, click on the DMO radio menu item, and you'll be able to download the new app that will link directly to Dallas Moore's Outlaw Radio channel, brought to you by TGRN. So we've got some of those changes up. They are active right now. You can go and check them out at tgrn.net. And yeah, keep your eye there for more information as well with regards to what's coming with that. Okay. So California, which is already in deep doo-doo, meaning that it's been paying out the nose on a lot of stuff. It's already in deep doo-doo. Well, apparently they are out of money. Yeah, they're out of money, folks. California. Well, why does this not surprise me any? Doesn't surprise anybody else, really, anyone who's intelligent anyway. Here in the populous times, California Governor Gavin Newsom is forced to borrow $3 billion. Now, it's not that he's forced to borrow $3 billion or over $3 billion for like essential services for Californians or Americans. No. The reason why he is being forced to borrow this money is because he decided to fund free health care for illegal aliens. People who are here illegally against the law. He is going to be forced to borrow $3.44 billion to fund his universal health care program for illegal aliens. Governor Newsom had previously boasted of a budget reconciliation measure that allowed the state to offer the free health care for the illegal aliens. He also reported that the Golden State was the first to offer universal health care for all residents, including illegal aliens. He said, quote, "With these new investments, California will become the first state to achieve universal access to health care coverage. We're investing in California's historic surplus to accomplish transformative changes we've long dreamed of, including this historical Medi-Cal expansion to ensure thousands of older, undocumented Californians," read that as illegal aliens, okay, many of whom have been serving on the front lines of the pandemic, can access critical health care services, he added. The state started offering taxpayer-funded health care for illegal aliens in January of 2024. In the same year, the state approved a new measure to cover health care needs for elderly illegal aliens above 50 years. Governor Newsom called that measure a major milestone in the state's progress toward universal health coverage. In 2019, the Golden State also started offering medical benefits for undocumented individuals, read illegal aliens, up to 26 years of age. Yeah. Meanwhile, California, of course, has the largest illegal alien population in the country, exceeding 3 million, including over 235,000 who are over 50 years old and are now eligible for state-funded health care for elderly illegal alien individuals. Previously, the state estimated that the program would cost about $3 billion. It now turns out that providing free health care for illegal aliens was more expensive than anticipated, and the state governor must now borrow $3.44 billion more to fund Medi-Cal, a Medicaid-style healthcare coverage plan for illegal aliens. Yeah. You sit there and wonder why. Because once again, folks, I mean, just getting back to the spending habits of Democrats, I'm just telling you, folks, Why? We don't have the money. The money is not there. Regardless of what you may say, what you may think, the money does not exist. They're having to borrow it. They're having to borrow that money that they promise to people who have never paid into the system. These are illegal aliens. They came here illegally. And if they even have a job, that means they spoofed or manufactured a social security number, possibly, probably. I mean, this is ridiculous. And this is being borne by the California taxpayer, by the way. Now, don't get me wrong, Medicare, Medicaid, those kinds of things, they all should be state-funded obligations and state-managed obligations on a state-by-state basis. Because again, as I've been saying throughout this program, Article 1, Section 8 does not carry healthcare as a federally mandated responsibility of the federal government. Okay? But this is ridiculous. They are already a couple of $1 trillion at least in debt. And now they're borrowing an additional $3.44 billion in order to fund this boondoggle for illegal aliens. Yeah. So, yeah. Anyway, according to the article here, more than half of the illegal aliens in the country uninsured enrollment in free healthcare programs is expected to double this year. At least 7 states are offering free coverage, and each one of those states anticipate expanding their programs to accommodate more illegal aliens. Why are we doing this? I mean, this is exactly why the illegal aliens are risking their whatevers to get their asses over here. Thankfully, Donald Trump has shut down the border to the tune of like 90+% crossings have dropped. But this is utterly ridiculous. Why are we having the American taxpayers? Now, look, if you want to fund a program, if you want to take a medical program and you want to fund it and you want to just hand that money over to illegal aliens and other people who are uninsured, great. Create those programs and fund it through people's generosity, not taxpayer dollars. This is not what taxpayer dollars are for. Taxpayer dollars are to essentially, regardless of whether it's federal or state, they are to improve the infrastructure systems that are necessary for the state, such as roads, postal service, police, fire, emergency medical services, not to send people into the hospital for, any other kinds of surgeries, elective surgeries or whatever, to pay for these insurance companies or these non-insured people to get, all this other health care. I mean, this is just showing once again, Democrats have no freaking clue on how to fund anything. They have no idea on how to fund this stuff. Seriously. All right. So there's a proposal, and this actually, I kind of think this is an interesting idea that we should potentially entertain. There's a proposal that's out in, let's see, where is this? In the Keystone State of Pennsylvania. That's right. Some fiscally conservative leaders in several states are pushing to abolish property taxes. There's one Pennsylvania lawmaker who is arguing that homeowners shouldn't have to, quote, pay rent to the government. Representative Russ Diamond from Lebanon, Pennsylvania, spoke to Fox News Digital on Thursday ahead of his latest effort to end the collection of such taxes in the Keystone State. Diamond will put forward a resolution titled HB 900, which Fox News Digital learned exclusively will be filed soon, imminently. The document is a draft constitutional amendment, meaning a state constitution, not federal constitution. He hopes will go to the voters on election day and is not a typical piece of legislation requiring gubernatorial approval. Pennsylvania Republicans previously utilized the constitutional amendment process to accelerate the rollback of COVID-19 lockdowns imposed by then Governor Tom Wolf, then Healthcare Secretary Rachel Levine, placing the amendment directly before the voters on election day. Diamond said, property taxes are an issue that is not exactly partisan because in some areas it's more of a big deal than in others. He stated this, citing various relationships between taxes and school district funding. Lebanon, he said, is kind of a middle of the road. That just to the east in Allentown and Mount Pocono, property taxes are actually a big deal. He said, for me, the big deal is that I want people to own their homes and not have to rent from the government all across Pennsylvania. He actually writes a Substack. I guess if you're in Pennsylvania, you should go and check out his Substack. There's a link in this article, by the way, from Fox Business. Anyway, in a recent post on his Substack, Diamond quipped that for every time the topic comes up, folks get all twisted into knots over how we're going to pay for things those taxes currently pay for. Frankly, they're missing the point. He says, boiled down to its very essence, fulfilling the promise of personal liberty is impossible if you can't actually own a piece of real property. Interesting. So, yeah. Very, very interesting. And speaking of property taxes, I don't have the article in here, but there was a article that I was reading and considering for the show that sort of aligns with this, that was talking about how baby boomers. Now, normally when baby boomers go and retire, and their kids move out of the house and so on and so forth, baby boomers tend to downsize their houses. Well, apparently interest rates are so high right now in terms of, housing interest rates, that many baby boomers are actually hanging on to their houses. And because they're hanging on to their houses, millennials are having a hard time finding homes. Kind of an interesting conundrum, I think. But hey, I know I'm hanging on to this house because I got a great interest rate. And I certainly am not planning on selling anytime soon. All right. Moving on. So the swatting, and I'm not talking about swatting a fly. I'm talking about the action of police, like calling police and faking like a person trapped in the home with a weapon or something along those lines, a domestic dispute or something like that in order to get a person swatted, meaning SWAT coming out to the homes. So apparently they now have a prominent conservative, by the way, who was swatted likely by far left radicals. So I'm trying to see here. So, accuse your enemy of what you are doing has been attributed variously to Karl Marx and Saul Alinsky, although it's impossible to say whether either of them actually wrote the phrase. It's just another way of describing the narcissistic reversal, which is captured in the acronym of DARVO, which is deny, attack, reverse, victim, and offender. So apparently, the Democrats under Joe Biden practiced that daily, claiming that the greatest threat to American security came from conservative voters, who they labeled as domestic extremists. The Biden administration, of course, ginned up the specter of the Proud Boys and right-wing militias to cover up the fact that it was the administration, the left, practicing terror tactics on conservative parents who showed up at school board meetings and so on and so forth. So this week, Gunther Eagleman, who is a Twitter X poster, right-wing, prolific conservative, he revealed that he was now targeted at as a swatted. He was basically swatted. Gunther Eagleman wrote, Eagleman wrote, "The gloves are off. First off, my family is safe. My house was just swatted. Some ignorant moron called in a fake hostage situation. Fortunately, I have good relations with law enforcement and extra patrols will be added. I don't tolerate threats and will find the culprit." So, yeah. There you go. It's probably another, So they're gonna start all of this stuff again. They're gonna kick all of this stuff up. All right, let's go ahead and get on to the question of the week. All right, so tonight's question of the week was submitted by Becky from the land down under, Australia land. Becky writes, "Hello, Whiskey. I hope this finds you well and your family well, and you and listeners filled with a great deal of optimism and hope. My question, if you should choose to accept it," boy, that's very, Mission Impossible here. Should you choose to accept it, is, in your personal opinion, will they uncover everything with our corrupt politicians and bureaucrats, or are they going to leave us hanging? When I say ours, I mean America, Australia, Great Britain or England, etc., etc. Right. So we know the UN, WHO, meaning WHO, and the WEF are as corrupt as hell. There are some politicians from both sides of the aisle, less on the left, that do not seem to corrupted, but there is a lot that is, because it is so obvious. Becky concludes with, "You love your show, Whiskey and Warriors, and I love Australia's closest ally, the United States of America." Well, we love Australia too. All right. So obviously the question is, in my personal opinion, will they actually uncover everything with our corrupt politicians and bureaucrats? I don't think they're going to necessarily leave us hanging, though. But I don't think they're going to provide everything. And the reason why is because of the fact that, in my personal opinion, I think that if they were to all of a sudden uncover everything and demonstrate everything, you basically would lose all faith in any kind of governmental organizations. And unfortunately, government, as our founding fathers pointed out, is a necessary evil. You have to have a certain level of government. But I don't think they're going to uncover everything. Because if they would, and if they did, I think the world, not just Americans, not just Australians, but the world would be completely shocked at how corrupt and messed up the Western governments, that are out here, the Western world governments, actually are. See, they put on this great front of being, these great hope and sources of so on and so forth. I don't think they can uncover everything, because if they were to hand over or provide that, not just a simple glimpse, but an actual clear 100% vision view into how these systems are really being warped into these corrupt scenarios, I think that the very society, the very tenets of society would actually break down. So honestly, I mean, the whole point in doing all of this or trying to demonstrate the corruption is sort of to keep the corruption manageable. That's really what it is. I don't think we're ever going to get everything, but I also think that there's a lot that can be cleaned up anyway. Even if you don't get all of it, you can get some of it and things will still be better. So, anyway, that's my opinion. I don't think we're going to get all of it, but we'll see. All right, folks, that is it for me for this evening. And do me a favor, if you haven't already, head on over to rumble.com, get yourself an account. It is free. And once you are signed up and signed in, make sure that you search up the American Perspective channel and hit that green follow button to get notified every time I go live. Also, too, don't forget to hit those thumbs up and like buttons across all of my platforms, whether it's YouTube, X, Facebook, and, of course, the aforementioned Rumble. We will see you on Monday, St. Patrick's Day, right here on American Perspective, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Have a great rest of your weekend, and good night, everybody.